The great throne room of the alien palace was filled with golden light. Tall pillars carved with strange runes reached up to the ceiling, and the alien nobles sat in silence around their young ruler. At the center, upon a shining throne of crystal, sat Princess Calera. Her long silver hair glowed faintly under the light, her sharp violet eyes scanned the council before her. She had called this meeting for one reason. Rumors, whispers had reached her ears about the new species, the humans. At first she ignored them. After all, her people were one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They controlled entire star systems, built ships that cut through space, and possessed knowledge of medicine and biology beyond most races. But the rumor was too strange to dismiss. The story claimed that humans could breed anytime. Her lips curled into a smile of disbelief as she remembered the first time she heard it. In her world, reproduction was sacred, tied to the alignment of moons, the flow of life energies, and complex rituals. Her people could only produce heirs once in many cycles. It was a time of celebration, planning, and politics. For them, fertility was rare and precious. But these humans? The story said they had no limits, no sacred season, no waiting, no rules. Calera had laughed aloud when her servant told her. Impossible, she had declared. Such a thing defies nature. Only animals breed without order. And yet, here she was, summoning her wisest advisors to confirm it. One of the elders, a thin alien with golden skin and tired eyes, bowed his head. Princess, I assure you, our scouts have not lied. The humans we captured on the frontier spoke of it openly. They seemed proud of this ability. The council chamber erupted in low murmurs. Some nobles shook their heads, others looked pale, as if such a thing was too indecent to even imagine. Calera raised her hand, silencing them. Her gaze narrowed. Proud. They are proud to behave like beasts? Another advisor cleared her throat. She was a stern woman with armor carved from crystal. Highness, forgive me, but if the rumor is true, it changes everything. A species that can multiply at will, without restriction, could flood the stars with their kind, armies of humans, could be bred faster than any other race. The room grew heavy. Everyone thought the same thing, but no one dared to say it. Humans could become a threat. The princess leaned back in her throne, her violet eyes burning with curiosity and suspicion. She could feel her heart beating faster. For the first time in years, something had shaken her confidence, but she would not admit it. Instead, she stood up. Her tall, regal figure demanded silence. I do not believe it, she said firmly. I refuse to believe it. Words are wind, stories are lies. Show me proof. Bring me a human. The nobles bowed, relieved that the princess had taken control. Again, orders were sent at once. Guards hurried from the chamber to prepare for her command. As Calera sat back down, her thoughts twisted like storm clouds. She hated the feeling of doubt. She was a princess, trained from birth to rule with certainty. And yet, this rumor gnawed at her mind. If it was false, she would expose it and crush the liars. But if it was true, her hand tightened on the arm of her throne. She imagined endless human soldiers rising like waves, overwhelming her empire with numbers alone. The thought sent a chill down her spine. Though her face remained calm, she whispered to herself, too quietly for anyone to hear, I will see with my own eyes, and then the galaxy will know the truth. Outside, the palace bells rang, echoing through the alien city. The order had been given. Somewhere, a human prisoner was being prepared for transport to her hall, and though she would never admit it aloud, the princess felt something strange deep inside her chest. It was not just fear, it was anticipation. Something about this challenge excited her. A new species, so bold, so strange, stirred a curiosity she could not control. She wanted to know what kind of creature could carry such a rumor. She wanted to see if his eyes held pride or shame. The chamber was silent again as the council ended. Calera rose once more, her silver hair flowing behind her, and left the throne room. She moved through the high corridors of the palace, her thoughts fixed on the coming encounter. The whispers of the nobles continued. Can it be true? Are humans really so reckless? If so, they may be the most dangerous race we've ever met. And somewhere far away, chained inside a cell, the human soldier named Daniel waited without fear. He did not know yet that the fate of an empire, the heart of a princess, would soon rest on his shoulders. The stage was set. The princess's doubt had begun a chain of events she could no longer stop. The night sky above the alien city burned with twin moons, casting silver light over the crystal towers. Inside the deepest prison below the palace, guards prepared a cell for a very unusual guest. Chains clinked against stone as the human was led in. His name was Daniel Carter, a soldier from Earth, who had been captured during a border skirmish. His wrists were bound with glowing cuffs that pulsed with alien energy, designed to break the will of even the strongest warriors. But Daniel walked calmly, his steps steady, his eyes sharp. The alien guards did not like it. One of them snarled, his scaled face twisting. Why does he not tremble? Even our generals bow before the princess, yet this human dares to look unafraid. Daniel only smiled faintly. He had been through worse. War zones, starvation, blood, and fire. He had seen them all. Compared to that, an alien dungeon was nothing. The cell door slammed shut, and the guards spat on the floor before leaving. Daniel sat on the cold stone bench, rolling his shoulders as if the cuffs were nothing but toys. His mind was not on escape. Not yet. He was curious. Why had they brought him here alive? Why did the aliens stare at him with both fear and fascination? He would soon find out. At dawn, the palace was alive with whispers. The princess had demanded the human be brought before her council. The nobles gathered once again, their jeweled robes rustling as they sat in nervous silence. The doors opened. Daniel was pushed inside by two guards. Chains rattled with each step, but he kept his chin high, his blue eyes sweeping over the chamber. He looked more like a visiting envoy than a prisoner. The nobles gasped softly. They'd expected a wild creature, dirty and broken. Instead, the human stood tall, his muscles lean from battle, his presence radiating confidence. He met their stares. Without fear, and for a brief moment, some nobles looked away, unable to hold his gaze. Princess Calera leaned forward on her throne, her violet eyes locked on him. For the first time, she was face to face with a human. So, she said, her voice echoing through the hall, "This is the creature that dares to call itself human." Daniel tilted his head slightly. "And you must be the one who dragged me here in chains." Not the best first impression. Gasps filled the hall. No one had ever spoken to the princess like that. Guards tightened their grip on their weapons, waiting for her order to strike him down. But Calera raised her hand. Duh. Her expression did not change, but deep inside she felt something strange. This human did not cower, did not beg. His calmness irritated her and fascinated her. "You will answer me," she said firmly. "Tell me the truth. Do humans truly breed without season, without limit? Or is it a lie to make you seem powerful?" The hall fell silent. All eyes turned to the human. Daniel's smile widened slightly. "Hey, you chained me, dragged me across the stars, and locked me in a dungeon. All because you're curious about how humans reproduce." He chuckled softly. "Princess, if you wanted to know, you could have just asked nicely." The nobles erupted in outrage. Some shouted for his death, others for his tongue to be cut out. But Daniel stood calm, his chains clinking as he shifted his stance. Calera raised her hand again, silencing the hall. She leaned back in her throne, her eyes narrowing. "You dare mock me. Be careful, human. I could end your life with a single word." Daniel looked directly into her eyes, unblinking. "Then do it. But if you kill me, you'll never know the answer you're so desperate to hear." For the first time in years, the princess was speechless. She had expected fear. She had expected him to kneel, to beg for mercy, to confess whatever she demanded. Instead, he challenged her authority without lifting a weapon. The silence stretched. In that silence, the power in the room shifted. The nobles, who had once looked at humans as little more than pests, now saw something dangerous. Not his chains, not his body, but his spirit. Calera finally spoke. her voice colder than before. "Very well, if you refuse to answer with words, then we will test you. We will see what a human truly is." Her command rang out across the chamber. Guards stepped forward, seizing Daniel's chains. The nobles leaned in, whispering among themselves, some in fear, some in excitement. Daniel was led away, but before leaving, he turned his head slightly, locking eyes with the princess one last time. His calm voice carried across the hall. "Careful, princess. You might not be ready for the truth." Her chest tightened. She did not know why those words unsettled her. She was Kalira, ruler of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. Yet in that moment, she felt as though she was no longer the one in control. That night, in her private chambers, Kalira stared out at the glowing city below. She told herself she hated him. She told herself humans were weak, filthy, unworthy. And yet, she could not stop replaying his voice in her mind. Not afraid, not broken, not defeated. This human was different. And tomorrow, when the test began, she would finally see if the impossible rumor was true. The next morning, the great hall was alive with tension. Nobles had gathered once again, their jeweled robes glowing in the crystal light. Everyone whispered about the human prisoner who had dared to speak back to the princess. Some called him reckless, others called him dangerous. But all agreed they wanted to see what he was truly made of. At the center of the chamber, Daniel was brought in. Chains still clung to his wrists, but his posture remained straight. He looked more like a soldier standing at attention than a prisoner awaiting judgment. His calm blue eyes moved slowly across the nobles, as if measuring them one by one. "Princess." Kalira sat high on her throne, her face carved from stone, hiding the storm inside her. She had not slept well. His voice, his calmness, and his boldness had haunted her through the night, or told herself it was anger. But deep inside, she knew there was something more, a strange curiosity she could not silence. "Begin the trial," Kalira commanded. The nobles leaned forward eagerly. 2 alien women were brought forward. Both were tall and elegant, dressed in flowing robes of crystal blue silk. Their faces were veiled, but their beauty could not be hidden. They were chosen carefully from the princess's attendants, both in their prime. Gasps spread through the hall. Everyone understood what this meant. The princess was not wasting time. She had arranged the first test to break the human's composure and prove the rumors false. Daniel tilted his head, watching as the 2 women approached him. His eyes flicked briefly to the princess. "This is your idea of a test?" he asked, his voice steady. Kalira's lips curved slightly. "If your kind truly has no limits, then prove it, show us, or admit your kind are liars." A ripple of excitement moved through the nobles. They leaned in, some smirking, others scandalized. None of them believed the human would hold his ground, but Daniel only chuckled softly. "So, this is what your empire fears? Not my weapons, not my ships, but this." His eyes burned as he looked back at the princess. "You want proof, princess? Proof doesn't come from tricks in a hall. It comes from strength, from will, from survival. That's something your council may never understand." The chamber fell into silence. Even the nobles who had mocked him before now stared in disbelief. He had spoken with fire, not shame. Kalira's eyes narrowed. For a heartbeat, her chest tightened. She hated his words, hated how they struck her like arrows of truth. But instead of ordering his execution, she leaned forward and whispered, "Then we will raise the trial." The guards dragged Daniel away, this time not to the dungeon, but to the sacred testing grounds beneath the palace. Few outsiders had ever seen it. It was a chamber built by their ancestors, where warriors were tested for worthiness before sacred battles. The room was circular, filled with glowing patterns etched into the floor. The air itself hummed with strange energy. Daniel stood at the center, his chains removed at last. Kalira entered with her nobles. Her long silver hair caught the light as she walked to the observation platform. Her voice rang clear. "This chamber does not lie. It reads strength, spirit, and blood. If humans are as powerful as you claim, it will reveal the truth. If not, you will die here, and no one will ever speak of your kind again." The nobles murmured in agreement. Many expected the chamber to reject him immediately. No human could withstand its energy. Even their own people prepared for years before entering. But Daniel only stretched his arms, as if waking from a nap. Finally, you take off the chains. The guards scowled, but stepped back. The chamber walls pulsed with light, reacting to his presence. Slowly, the glowing patterns on the floor began to shift, circling around him like living fire. Gasps filled the hall. The chamber had never reacted so quickly. Kalira's heart skipped a beat. She tried to keep her face cold, but her fingers curled against the railing. Something inside her whispered that this human was dangerous in a way she had never imagined. Daniel closed his eyes, standing calm as the light rose higher. It licked around his body like flames, testing, probing, measuring. His muscles tightened, sweat ran down his forehead, but still he stood strong. Minutes passed. Then, with a sudden roar, the entire chamber blazed with golden light. The nobles cried out in shock. The glow was so bright it forced them to shield their eyes. Some fell to their knees, unable to withstand the energy, but Daniel remained standing. His chest rose and fell with steady breaths. His eyes opened, glowing faintly with reflected light. The chamber had accepted him. No more than accepted. Had awakened for him in a way it never had for any alien before. Kalira's breath caught in her throat. Her people had legends of such power, but she had never seen it with her own eyes. And now, it was not an alien prince or warrior. It was a human, chained and mocked only hours ago. For the first time, she felt her certainty slipping away. She whispered softly, almost to herself. Impossible. But the human heard her. His voice was low, steady, and filled with quiet strength. Nothing is impossible, princess. Not for humans. The chamber dimmed, but the silence that followed was louder than thunder. The nobles stared in disbelief. The princess's heart raced. The test had begun and it had already changed everything. The chamber was still glowing faintly when the guards dragged Daniel back to the center. The nobles whispered nervously among themselves. Many of them had witnessed the chamber's trials before, but never had they seen it blaze with such violent light. Some were afraid to even speak. Princess Kalira, however, stood frozen on the high platform. Her violet eyes were locked on the human below. She had demanded proof of his kind, and now the proof was before her. Oh, the sacred chamber had never lied. It had judged thousands of warriors through history. Some it had rejected, others it had crushed. Only the strongest ever survived. And yet, the human had not only survived, he had awakened it. Kalira's pride burned. She wanted to shout that the chamber was broken, that this was some accident. But her people were watching. If she denied what they had all seen, she would look weak. She could never appear weak. She raised her hand, and the murmurs died instantly. This is not enough, she declared. Her voice was calm, but her heart raced. One light does not prove his. Kind are as dangerous as the rumors claim. We will go further. We'll push him beyond what any alien has faced. The nobles gasped. Some looked horrified, others thrilled. To challenge the chamber further was unheard, if it was dangerous, even for her own people. But none dared to. Argued the princess had spoken. The floor of the chamber shifted. Strange runes glowed brighter, and the air grew heavy. From hidden walls, sharp crystal spears emerged, humming with energy. The entire room began to change, becoming more alive, more hostile. This was the true form of the chamber, a place, not just of judgment, but of survival. Daniel looked around calmly. His lips curved into a faint smile. So now it's a game of death. I was starting to get bored. Guards flinched at his words. Could a chained man surrounded by alien power still sound so calm? The test began. The chamber unleashed. Its first strike, a blast of pure energy that cracked across the floor. Daniel dove aside, rolling smoothly, his soldier's reflexes saving him. The nobles gasped. He moved like lightning, even without weapons. The chamber struck again. Spear of crystal shot upward from the ground, aiming to impale him. Twisted his body, narrowly escaping, the spear slicing a cut across his arm. Blood flowed, but he barely reacted. Up on the platform, Kalira leaned forward, her chest tight. She had expected him to be broken instantly, to fall screaming. Instead, he fought the chamber as if it were a battlefield, his every move born from experience and instinct. "This is madness," whispered one noble. "He should be dead already. Perhaps humans are more dangerous than we thought." Another muttered. Kalira clenched her fists. She would not admit it, but a strange heat ran through her veins as she watched him. It was not just respect. It was something deeper, something she could not name. Minutes turned into a long, brutal test. The chamber rained fire, launched spears, and filled the air with crushing pressure. Daniel's body bled, sweat dripping down his face, but still he stood. His muscles trembled with strain, yet his eyes never lost their fire. Finally, the chamber unleashed its final strike. A storm of energy surged from the walls, bright enough to blind the nobles. The ground cracked apart, the runes burning with golden fire. It was the chamber's judgment. Its attempt to destroy what it could not control. The light consumed Daniel completely. For a moment, silence ruled. Some nobles believed he was gone. Turned to ash. Then, through the blazing light, a shadow appeared. Daniel, he emerged from the fire, his chest heaving, blood staining his arms and legs, but he was alive. Alive and standing tall. The chamber's glow flickered, then dimmed. It surrendered, its power spent. For the first time in centuries, it had failed to break its subject. The nobles dropped to their knees, whispering in fear and awe. The chamber accepts him. He is not a beast, he is something greater, impossible. Kalira's heart pounded. Her body felt hot, her thoughts tangled. She had demanded proof, and now she had it. The human had passed a trial even. Her greatest champions feared. She stepped down from the platform, her footsteps echoing. The guards hesitated but made way for her. Slowly, she walked across the ruined chamber until she stood only a few feet from Daniel. Up close, she could see the blood dripping from his wounds, the sweat on his brow, but she could also see his eyes, calm, steady, unbroken. "You should be dead," she whispered. Daniel's lips curved into a tired but confident smile. "I've been told that before." The first time, the princess felt her breath catch. Her pride told her to turn away, to hide her confusion, but her heart refused. She'd wanted to prove the humans were liars, that they were nothing. She had uncovered something far more dangerous. The chamber had not lied. Humans were different, and though she tried to deny it, Kalira felt something new inside her. Fear, yes, but also fascination, and something even more dangerous, respect. That night, as the palace returned to silence, the nobles still whispered of what they had seen. But the princess sat alone in her chamber, her mind racing. This human had changed everything, and deep inside, she wondered, had she unleashed a power her empire could never control? The palace was heavy with silence after the dangerous trial. The nobles had gone back to their quarters, but their whispers still spread like fire through the city. Everyone spoke of the human who had survived the sacred chamber. Some called him a monster, others a miracle. But for Princess Kalira, the matter was not settled. She sat alone on her throne, her long silver hair cascading down like flowing light, her violet eyes lost in thought. The chamber had accepted him, no one could deny it. Yet her pride resisted. She needed more than glowing lights and sacred judgment. She needed undeniable proof. And so, she summoned him again. Daniel was brought before her that evening. His wounds had been cleaned by the healers, though his arms and chest still bore scars from the chamber's wrath. The guards expected him to limp, to look broken. Instead, he walked calmly, his posture straight, his eyes steady as ever. Kalira leaned forward, studying him in silence. She hated how his presence disturbed her calm. He was only a human, yet he stood before her like an equal. "You should not be alive," she said quietly. Daniel smirked faintly. "I get that a lot," her lips tightened. He always had an answer, always with that strange confidence. She would tear that confidence apart tonight. "You claim humans can breed any time," she said, her voice echoing across the hall. "But words in glowing chambers are not enough. I want proof." Here now, the nobles who remained gasped. The guards looked shocked. Such a demand was rare, almost scandalous, but the princess did not care. Pride demanded it. Daniel's expression changed, his eyes narrowing as he studied her. Then slowly he shook his head and chuckled. "Proof," he repeated softly. "Princess, what you're asking for isn't proof, it's fear talking. You don't want the truth. You're afraid of it." The chamber erupted with outrage. Guards stepped forward, ready to strike him down for his insult. But Kalira lifted her hand, silencing them. Her heart pounded, but her face remained cold. "Afraid?" she asked, her voice sharp. "I fear nothing." Daniel met her gaze, unblinking. "Then stop hiding behind trials and guards. Stop demanding others to test me. If you really want proof, princess, ask me directly." The words hit her like a blade. For a moment she felt exposed, as if he had torn through her armor with nothing but his voice. Her chest tightened, heat rising to her face. The hall was silent, eyes fixed on the two of them. Kalira rose slowly from her throne. Her steps echoed as she descended the crystal stairs until she stood face to face with him. Up close, she could see the steady rise and fall of his chest, the scars across his skin, and the fire in his blue eyes. "You dare speak to me as though we are equals," she whispered. Daniel tilted his head. "No, I speak to you as though you are someone who actually wants the truth." Her breath caught. She hated him for saying it, and yet she could not deny it. The princess turned sharply, her silver hair swirling behind her, and motioned for the guards to leave. Reluctantly, they obeyed. The hall doors closed, leaving her alone with the human silence. She walked slowly around him, her eyes burning into his back. "My people will not believe unless I tell them. I will not tell them unless I believe it myself." Daniel's voice was steady, almost calm. "Then stop searching for lies. The truth is already in front of you." Her hands trembled slightly, though she forced them still. She hated how his words unsettled her. She hated how her body reacted when he stood so close. And worst of all, she hated how curiosity drowned her pride. She turned back to face him. "Very well, you want me to ask directly? Then answer me. Is it true? Can humans really breed any time?" Daniel's smile faded. His eyes grew serious, piercing into hers. "Yes, it's true. That is why your empire fears us. That is why your nobles whisper behind your back. And that is why you brought me here tonight. Not because you doubt me, but because deep inside, you already know it." Her heart thundered. His voice carried no weakness, no hesitation. He had spoken the truth with such strength that her pride shattered like glass for the first time. Princess Kalira felt cornered, not by armies, not by rival empires, but by one human standing in chains. She stepped back, her breath quick and uneven. She wanted to deny it, to call him a liar, to strike him down. But her body betrayed her, her mind betrayed her. She could not stop hearing his words, and in that moment, the proof unfolded, not in glowing chambers or noble whispers, but in her own reaction. The impossible had become undeniable. The doors opened again, and the guards returned. They saw their princess standing in silence, her eyes locked on the human, her face unreadable. Kalira raised her chin, regaining her composure. "Take him back to his cell," she ordered softly. But as Daniel was led away, his calm voice echoed. One last time across the hall. "Careful, princess. You asked for proof? Now you have it." Her chest tightened painfully. She sat back on her throne, her hand gripping the armrest. She could not admit it aloud, but she had seen the truth. With her own eyes, humans were not liars. Humans were not weak. And worst of all, humans were not under her control. The palace felt strangely restless after the humans' words. Servants whispered in corners, guards traded nervous looks, and the nobles refused to speak too loudly. Everyone felt the shift. Something had changed inside their princess, but no one dared to say it aloud. In her private chamber, Princess Kalira sat before a tall mirror. Her violet eyes stared back at her reflection, but she barely recognized herself. For years, she had been trained to be cold, proud, unshakable. A ruler who feared nothing. And yet, single human had shaken her to the core. She pressed her hands against the polished surface of the table, her fingers trembling slightly. "Impossible?" she whispered to herself. "He's only a human. A prisoner? Nothing more," but her body betrayed her. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his steady blue gaze, unbroken, even in chains. She heard his calm voice, daring to tell her the truth when no one else in the empire would. Why did his words cut deeper than any blade? Why did her heart race every time she remembered his face? That night, she could not sleep. She paced across her chamber, the long curtains swaying in the soft wind from the balcony. The moons glowed high above the city, but their light only made her restlessness worse. Finally, she gave in. She summoned the guards. "Bring the human to me," she ordered. The guards hesitated, shocked by such a command at this hour, but none dared question her. Minutes later, Daniel was led into her private chambers. His chains clinked softly, but his posture was calm as always. Kalira dismissed the guards with a wave of her hand. "Leave us." The doors closed, leaving them alone in the silent room. Daniel looked around casually, his eyes scanning the tall shelves of ancient books. The glowing crystals that lit the chamber, the balcony that overlooked the shining alien city. Finally, his gaze settled on her. "You couldn't sleep either, huh?" he said softly. Her breath caught. How did he know? She masked her reaction with a glare. "I summoned you because I require answers." He smirked faintly. "Funny. Last time you said that, you almost had me killed." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Do not mock me, human. You should be grateful I have not executed you already." Daniel stepped closer, his chains rattling softly, his voice lowered. "And yet here I am in your chamber, alone with you, which means you don't want me dead. You want the truth." Her heart pounded. He was right. She hated that he was right. She turned away, walking toward the balcony. "You confuse me, human. People have always been proud. We believe ourselves above all others. And yet, you have shattered everything I believed." "Why?" Daniel followed slowly, his voice calm but strong. "Because you've never met someone who wasn't afraid of you. Everyone else bows. Everyone else obeys. But humans? We don't break so easily." Kalira gripped the balcony rail tightly. Her chest tightened at his words. "Do you realize what you've done?" she asked softly. "By surviving the chamber, by standing against me, you've made my people afraid. Afraid of you. Afraid of humans. Afraid of me for allowing you to live." Daniel shrugged lightly. "Fear isn't always bad. Sometimes it wakes people up, makes them see the truth." She turned sharply, her violet eyes flashing. "And what truth is that?" He stepped closer, his eyes locking onto hers. "That humans are not weak. We're not your toys or your slaves or your experiments. And maybe that your empire isn't as unshakable as you thought." Her breath caught again. His words struck her like lightning. She should have ordered his death. Right there. But instead, she stood frozen, her body trembling with something she did not want to admit. Silence stretched between them, heavy and tense. Finally, Kalira spoke, her voice low and uneven. "I should hate you. I should destroy you. And yet, when I look at you, I feel something else, something I cannot explain." Daniel's expression softened slightly. "It's called awakening, princess. It happens when the lies you've lived with your whole life finally start to break." Her chest rose and fell rapidly. She wanted to deny it, to scream at him, to order him chained again. The truth was already inside her. For the first time, Princess Kalira felt alive. She turned back toward the city, her voice trembling with unspoken emotion. "If my people knew what I felt now, they would call me weak." Daniel stepped beside her, his voice quiet but firm. "Maybe. Or maybe they'd finally see that even a princess can change. Even a princess can learn the truth." She looked at him, her violet eyes wide. For a long moment neither spoke. The only sound was the wind and the faint rattle of his chains, and in that silence, Kalira realized the most terrifying truth of all. The human had not just proven his species strength. He had awakened something inside her that no alien ritual, no noble bloodline, no crown of crystal had ever touched her heart. As the night deepened, she dismissed the guards who waited outside. She gave no explanation, and none dared to ask. But deep inside, she knew her world had changed forever. The human had broken her doubt, and now she was the one who could never go back. The sun rose over the alien city, painting the crystal towers in gold and silver light. But inside the palace, the air was heavy with tension. Word of the human had spread beyond the nobles and guards. Traders whispered his name in markets. Soldiers argued in barracks, and even children spoke of him in hushed voices. The empire trembled not from war, not from invasion, but from the presence of one man. Princess Kalira stood at her balcony, staring at the horizon. Her eyes were sharp, but her mind was restless. She had not slept. Every moment of the night replayed in her thoughts, the human's eyes, his calm voice, the fire in his words. He had shaken her more than any enemy ever had. A soft knock came. At her door, "Enter," she commanded. A guard stepped inside, his face pale. "Highness, the council demands judgment. They want the human executed before more chaos spreads." Kalira's heart tightened.
Yes.
She had expected this. The nobles feared losing control. They feared that the empire's perfect image would crumble. If the truth about humans was accepted, she dismissed the guard with a wave of her hand. Alone again, she whispered to herself, "What do I fear more, my counsel or the truth?" Later that day, the great hall filled once again. Nobles gathered in shimmering robes, guards lined the walls, and the council stood firm. At the center stood Daniel, his chains glinting under the light. The hall buzzed with voices until Kalira raised her hand. Silence fell. "Human," she said, her voice echoing. "You have defied death, survived the sacred chamber, and spoken words that shook my people. Now my council demands your execution. What do you say to that?" Daniel lifted his head slowly, his calm blue eyes locking onto hers. His lips curved into a faint smile. "If you kill me, princess, you kill your proof. You kill the truth you've already seen with your own eyes, and deep inside, you know you'll never forget it." Gasps filled the chamber. Some nobles shouted in anger, others fell into uneasy silence. Kalira's breath caught. His words cut her again, sharp and merciless. She wanted to deny him, to silence him forever. But her heart refused. She stepped down from her throne. The hall trembled with whispers as she walked toward him. When she stopped in front of him, the guards tensed, expecting her to strike. But instead, she raised her hand and shattered his. Chains, the hall erupted in chaos. Nobles cried out in shock, some in rage, others in fear. Kalira's voice rang out, silencing them all. "The chamber has judged him. I have seen his strength with my own eyes. Humans are not weak. They are not liars. And if you fear them, then perhaps it is because they show us what we refuse to see in ourselves." The nobles recoiled. Some bowed their heads, others clenched their fists. But none dared to oppose her openly. Daniel stood free at last, rubbing his wrists where the shackles had been. He met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "That was a dangerous choice, princess. Your council won't forgive it." Kalira's eyes burned with fierce resolve. "Let them hate me. Let them fear me. I would rather stand with the truth than hide behind lies." The two of them stood together in the center of the hall, an alien princess and a human prisoner. The image itself was powerful, more powerful than any weapon. For a moment, the empire's future seemed uncertain. Some nobles saw doom, others saw hope, but all knew that nothing would ever be the same again. That night, Kalira met Daniel once more in her private chambers. The city outside glowed with restless light, but the room was quiet. She stood by the window, her voice softer than before. "I was raised to believe humans were nothing, yet you have forced me to see otherwise. You've broken my doubt, Daniel, and awakened something I never thought I could feel." Daniel stepped closer, his chains gone, his posture still strong. And what is that? She turned to face him. Her violet eyes shimmered, no longer filled with only pride, but with something more. Respect, fear, curiosity, and something else I don't yet have the courage to name. Daniel held her gaze. Then maybe that's enough for now. Stood together in silence, the alien princess and the human soldier, bound not by chains, but by truth. The galaxy outside still burned with conflict and pride. But inside that chamber, a new bond had been forged. A bond built on fear and fascination, on respect and awakening, on something neither of them could yet understand, and far beyond the palace. In the dark corners of the Empire, whispers grew louder. Humans can breed any time. Humans cannot be broken. Even the princess bows to the truth of their kind. The rumor that had started with laughter had now become a legend, and the legend was only beginning.